Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Max. I'm back today with another YouTube video, and today we're back on Dark Souls Remastered. Now, I know this kind of video has probably been done in the past, but today I'm going to show you, in my opinion, what to be the best 3 dexterity weapons you can get from a very early start of the game with not a whole lot of investment into it, especially in terms of the stats. You'll see what the weapons are. All of them, of course, requiring you to clear the Asylum, but that's for any run or build or whatever you want to go with. So obviously you're going to want to beat the Asylum. If this is your actual first playthrough, of course you're just going to clear the Asylum. You're going to clear the fog gate here, of course. You're going to find the Asylum Demon. Normally you could do about at least a third of its health with whatever your starting weapon is, and it should be a pretty easy fight. If you need an actual tutorial on how to beat the Asylum Demon, well, that's probably a separate video. But don't be ashamed. When I first played Dark Souls back in 2013, I struggled with the Asylum Demon very, very heavy. So yeah, let's get into the top 3 dexterity weapons that I think would be the best picks for a starting character that easily can carry you through the end of the game, in my opinion. These are all weapons that get better scaling as you go through standard reinforcement. And yeah, let's get right into it right now. So the first weapon is going to be the Greatscythe. Now the Greatscythe doesn't actually require any souls, it just requires excessive amount of skill to get to it. So now I'm going to be following along the route of my character, which I was actually able to do it in one go without any deaths. This is me, just had a ride at Fire Lake Shrine. I leveled up a little bit into Strength, which, by the way, for any of these weapons, the Wanderer is actually a phenomenal starting class, as it gives you the required dexterity amount that you will need for any of these weapons, including the Greatscythe. A little bit about the Greatscythe while we're on the run to get there. By the way, we're going to be going through the Catacombs, as you can see. Which is typically a late game area, or at least mid to late game area. But again, you're not killing anything. You can run past all the enemies, just follow the route that you see on screen to get to the Greatscythe. But a little bit about it. It requires 14 strength, 14 dex. It starts at 100 base damage. As you power it up through standard reinforcement, it can get all the way up to 250. Starts with B scaling dex, but improved to A scaling dex as you get to plus 14 and 15. And you can couple this with Sunlight Blade, Dark Moon Blade, Crystal Magic Weapon, whatever you wanted to combine it with. If you were to go a hybrid build, if you wanted to go a strict dex build, it's also very good as well. For you to just dump massive amounts of points into dex, and you'll have a phenomenal weapon that you can also just infuse with charcoal pine resin, gold pine resin, whatever you wanted to do. So now let's talk a little bit about the area. So the Catacombs is kind of a nightmare, but again, you don't have to do any actual damage to the enemies. Just try to roll around them a bit, and you will get hit, but you're coming from Firelink, so you'll start with 10 Estus. You have plenty of Estus Sponge to help you through the enemies. It is important to note that you're not going to want to rest at any of the bonfires in the Catacombs, because if you do inevitably die, you'll respawn there, and it's better to just complete the run successfully and not have to worry about climbing back out of the Catacombs. I get absolutely owned by these statues here, just disregard that. And it's actually pretty funny. I thought I was going to die at this point here. You'll see in just a little bit. But, yeah, it's just one of those things where you're grinding to get the Greatscythe. Because typically, I guess the game developers didn't want you to get this weapon this early. But there was a way to get it early, so without having to kill literally anything. So again, a lot of bonfires in the Catacombs. These are only good for when you have the warping ability, in my opinion. Because otherwise, you have, like I said, you have to climb out of them if you rest at them. And this is the point where I thought I was going to die. But luckily, they just staggered about for a bit and didn't do anything, so I was able to complete this on my first go. You do have to pull a lot of these levers, so any time you see a lever, the first 2 levers you do have to push in to actually get to the Greatscythe, so keep that in mind as well. At this point, once you get to the bridge where the Pyromancer's shooting fireballs from me at the end, you actually roll off to the right here, where you will be able to meet the NPC Patches, who kind of is like Patches the Untrustworthy, basically. Through that door is another bonfire, but you don't want to rest at that one. You want to go up the ladder and kind of basically force the contraption a couple times. That way you know you have at least enough time to get to the Greatscythe, because you do have to go across that bridge. But if you go all the way to the fog, Patches will pull the lever back, as you can see on screen, fucking up the bridge. So that way you can't sort of do it. I don't know. It's tough to. It's just. I always just recommend just messing with it. The skeleton comes up here and kind of fucks him up a little bit. But anyways, now that you've done that, you are able to quickly, and this is probably the toughest part of the run, aside from dodging all the enemies, before the bridge gets switched over again by patches, you have to make it to this ledge, roll down to the subsequent ledge below, and the Greatscythe is on this corpse here. At this point, you might as well just die. There's really no point. Hopefully you didn't bring too many souls down here with you, or any humanity, which is a huge no-no if you did. All these people just decided to jump in the down the hole. I have no idea why. And I actually did live long enough to show you the secret blacksmith, quote-unquote secret blacksmith down here, Vamos. This is the one that gives you, again, fire reinforcement, basically fire and chaos reinforcement, so he's great if you want to do that. And yeah, so you can talk to him if you want to do any of that kind of stuff. And you actually have to if you want to do fire or chaos, of course. And then I just pretty much just go out here to... And they did add a bonfire next to him in the remastered version, even though that wasn't in there. And then I just let the bone wheel skeletons just own me, because I want to get back to Fire Link at this point, so... Yep. So, on to weapon number 2. Here we go. Just to show you the Greatscythe stats real quick. Again, it starts at B scaling, and it does have the bleed auxiliary effect, I forgot, which is phenomenal. You're going to want to pick up these 3 humanity for the 3rd weapon in this list, and I'm just kind of showing you the path to get to the 2nd weapon at this point. Basically, you're going to go through the normal Undead Burg progression route, clear all the enemies, because you're going to want some souls just to be able to buy the weapon, and, you know, just clear all the enemies, and, you know, you'll get to the Undead Merchant, essentially. The Undead Merchant can be found in the bottom half of this building. You can just parry these guys with a shield. They're pretty easy. And what you're going to want to pick up off the Undead Merchant is actually the Spear for 600 souls. Now, a lot of people undervalue the Spear. It does start at C scaling dex, and it improves to B scaling dex as you go up through standard reinforcement. But again, it also works with Sunlight Blade, Dark Moon Blade, Crystal Magic Weapon, whatever you want to do, or Resins. That is a decent base damage of 80, and it goes up pretty high when you go through standard reinforcement. But what's so great about it is that you can actually use your shield and, you know, attack at the same time. And we'll see all the movesets of each of these weapons at the end of the video. But yeah, now at this point, to get to the 3rd weapon, you just have to defeat one more boss, which being the Taurus Demon. You always start with the Master Key whenever you make a character anyways, so get the Gold Pine Resin from that one house, or if you accidentally didn't start with the Master Key, just buy the Residency Key from the same Undead Merchant for 1,000 souls to spend 1,600 total, which at this point in the game you probably should have that if you haven't leveled up especially. And, which, well actually you probably wouldn't if you lost him in getting the Greatscythe, but I'm assuming you're not going for all 3 of these weapons at the same time, so, like I did. But yeah, Taurus Team is pretty manageable. Just, you know, bait out his attacks and use that Gold Pine Resin to really beat him. Get to the Parish Bonfire, get to the 2nd Parish Bonfire, and this is going to be where you start your route, and that we'll see on screen pretty quickly here. So, essentially, this took me 25 runs, and you're going to want to get your humanity counter up to at least 10, but I got past 10. That 3 humanity is now going to come in handy from Firelink Shrine. You can also get twin humanities if you decide to beat the Bell Gargoyles first. Or there's a couple of humanities that I probably could have picked up along the path going to the parish as well. But anyways, you need this to increase your item discovery because you're going to be facing off against a few Balder Knights. Now to keep in mind, there is about 7 Balder Knights in this area. However, only 3 of them have the weapon that they can actually drop. 4 of them use what is the Rapier, and 3 of them use a weapon called the Balder Side Sword, which is the one we're trying to get. It's basically a better longsword with a slightly better moveset. In my opinion, it's basically the same moveset, but it has a way better scaling with Dexterity. Now, this is about the 25th run you're seeing on screen, given how many humanity I have. I finally picked up the Balder Side Sword. I was so happy after recording for like an hour and a half trying to get this fucking sword. And I had to do the joy gesture just because I was like, holy shit, finally. But I did decide to go ahead and show you the whole rest of the route. So obviously you clear the 3 hollows. You just parry the guys with the Balder Side Sword. There's no reason not to. That's the first one. This is the second one who comes immediately running out of you from the church. Again, just parry him. And if you even have like a +1 weapon at this point, like the +1 scimitar, the riposte will kill them. You do have to worry about this rapier guy, but there's no way of getting out of fighting him. He will always aggro before the other Balder Knight with the Balder Side Sword. This is the 3rd and final one in the area. There is 2 more on the way to, or sorry, one other one on the way to the parish, and there's 2 in the upper part of the church, but they all have rapiers, so you don't need to fight them in your typical route. I just wanted to show off that I got 17 Titanite shards there. And again, now we're just showcasing the movesets of some of these. So I will tell you, the only downside of the Greatscythe is a little bit slow to swing. As you can see here, this is a regular R1, that's a regular R2. But it is a good moveset. It does, it's just slow. It does take a little bit to wind up, essentially. But the running attacks are phenomenal as well. As you can see, the running R1s and running, one-handed R1s and all this kind of stuff. The Greatscythe is a phenomenal weapon. It's probably my favorite weapon in the game. And the 2-headed running R1 is just pure bliss. It's a great PvP weapon as well. Moving on to the spear. It's a very simple moveset. You're just going to poke people. And it basically has the same thrust. But again, this weapon also works, and the reason why I think it's really good is it does work with the Leo ring. The one that is good. Whichever one is good for, poke damage, basically, thrust damage, which the spear would benefit from as well. Then I forgot to show the running R1. And then lastly, you got the Balder Side Sword. And again, this is basically just a better longsword. It just has better scaling with dex. It'll get up to A as you go forward. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It means a lot. Obviously, it took a long time to get this fucking Balder Side Sword, and I might not even use this character again. So the support would be much appreciated. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope you guys use these weapons if you're starting out in Dark Souls Remastered. And yeah, have a good day, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.